Christmas time comes but once a year. Ooh, I'm happy, and the kids are happy too.
But in the shopping center where I work, there's almost a tradition. We opened up at 8, and about 9, we had a guy, name was Robert, that would get off the bus, walk up to the liquor store, and proceed to get smashed. I mean, he would get tore up, and then a couple of hours later, he would walk back to the bus stop, grabbing every car on the way to balance himself. And one day, preacher was driving up to get a haircut, and Robert was on the way back to the bus stop. And the preacher looked at him, and he recognized Robert as one of the guys he went to high school with. So he decided that he was going to kind of embarrass Robert and get him to maybe do better. So he walked up to Robert. He said, "Robert, look at you. You're raggedy, you're all smelly, and you're drunk." And Robert looked back at him and said, "Yeah, preacher, I'm drunk, but you ugly." And I would be sober tomorrow. Okay, when my good friend Aaron Robbins was a young man in the country, he used to go rabbit hunting a lot. And Aaron was out rabbit hunting, and one day a rabbit came by him. He was just flying. And Aaron didn't get a shot at him because he was moving so fast. And then he saw why he was running so fast. There was a fox chasing him. And the fox was gaining on him. And the fox was just about to leap on him and have himself a meal. But the rabbit went down in the hole and got away. And the fox looked back at Aaron and said, "You know, Aaron, I just hate fast food." I had to write the punchline down for these jokes because, as I say, as you get older, your memory goes. But I bought some medication that's supposed to improve my memory. But I put it down at home and I can't remember where I put it. But by the time I find it, I won't realize where it's at. Young man and young lady was married, and they was expecting their first child. And they was looking forward to it with great anticipation. They had rehearsed, they had the suitcase packed by the door, and the moment finally arrived, and she went into labor. And the husband grabbed the suitcase, got his wife, rushed out to the car, and in his excitement, on the way to the hospital, he hit a telephone pole. The man and the woman both was unconscious. And the woman was unconscious for 5 days. And when she finally regained consciousness, the doctor was there, and she said, "What happened?" And the doctor told her, so, "Well, you and your husband had an accident on the way to the hospital, and you've been unconscious for 5 days. And she said, "Well, I don't, the babies, they don't, what about my baby?" So, "Well, don't worry, your babies are all right. You had twins, you had a boy and a girl." And she said, "Okay, but it's been 5 days and they don't have a name." And the doctor said, "Well, don't worry about that. See, your brother, the baby's uncle, came by and he named him." And she said, "Doc, my brother is a certified nut. Surely you didn't let him name my baby." The doctor said, "Well, I didn't know. It seemed all right to me." He said, "Well, what did he name my little girl?" He said, "He named the little girl Denise." She said, "Oh, that's pretty. Maybe this will work out all right." "What did he name the little boy?" "They named the little boy D-Nephew." most everybody here realize that some of the men in the teenagers group like to fish. And Johnny Woodruff is one of our great fishermen. Wait. So one Wednesday, Johnny told everybody he was going fishing that following Saturday. So the Sunday, he was in Sunday school, and T asked Johnny, said, how many fish you catch? Johnny said, T, I didn't get but one. He said, but man, he was a huge fish. He was a whopper. He said, the biggest freshwater fish I ever caught. T said, well, how much did he weigh, Johnny? Johnny said, I didn't weigh him, but I took a picture of him, and the picture weighed 9 pounds. When my daughter was about 7, 8 years old, she loved animals. She adopted everything that came around the house. And I got rid of it as fast as she adopted it. One cat stayed. He just adopted us. And he was determined I wasn't gonna run him away. So one spring, first time I was cutting grass. I got the lawnmower out, got the gas can out, and there was just a little gas in the gas can. So I pulled the gas in a container and went in the house to get my car keys to go get some more gas. And when I came out, the cat was lapping up that gas in the container. He had drank it all before I even could stop it. And then all of a sudden his eyes got real big, his fur stood up on his back, and he just started going round and round in a circle, doing flips, turning and making an awful sound, just screaming. And he finally went up a tree, went up to the top of that tree, still screaming, going round and round, and he went out on a limb, and all of a sudden, he looked up and he got silent. And he fell, hit the ground. Jerry, ask me if he died. No, he just ran out of gas. This is what's going on the bus, y'all. Y'all get to be teenagers, y'all be able to little small town in Alabama had a small police department, and all the policemen left the job and came to Georgia because Georgia was paying a little more money. So the chief said, we got to hire some policemen. So they put an ad in the paper, said, policemen wanted, no experience necessary. And they told the 2 guys that was interviewing the folks, said, look, just ask them the simplest question you can, because we need policemen. Just ask them something, everybody. So this guy named Johnny, he didn't have a job because he was he wasn't too bright. He was about 2 bricks shy of a load. And his wife said, why don't you go down and see if you can get a job down at the police department? And he said, okay. So we went down and they was interviewing him. And they asked him, said, well, Johnny, what is 1 and 1? He said, that's 11. Well, okay. That's another simple question. So, Johnny, what are the 2 days of the week that begin with the letter T? He said, today and tomorrow. They need a policeman bad. So I tell you what we do. I'm going to give you a little homework. So if you can finish this homework, bring it back Monday, we're going to hire you. So the homework is just find out who killed Abraham Lincoln. It's okay. So he went home and his wife asked him, say, how did it go down at the police department? He said, I think I did real good. Because I wasn't down there but 5 minutes, and they done put me on the murder case already. Don't offend anybody. That was a couple that had a baby. But the baby was not fully formed. All it was a head. The head was smile and everything. So the doctor told me to take him home. So they took the head home, and the head grew. At 6 years old, they took him to elementary school, he did well. Went into high school, he was valedictorian at high school. And I mean, everybody was just proud of him. So on his 18th birthday, his dad said, it's time for me to buy him his first drink. So he took him to a bar. And he bought the head of beer. He drank the beer, and all of a sudden his arms came out. It's all right. Give me another beer. So he gave him another beer, and all of a sudden, his torso formed. He was great, man. Give me another beer. And they gave him another beer, and his legs came out. Whoa. He was a total man. I mean, he started running around, just dancing, shaking everybody's hand and doing flips. And he went out of the bar, across the street, shook some folks' hands over there, and on his way back to the bar, he got hit by a pickup truck. Moral of this story: should have quit while he was ahead. This is another preacher joke. They had this church in a small town, and the preacher was retired. So they was looking for a new preacher. Now this slicker from Atlanta, one of them slick preachers, you know, that's why he didn't have a job in Atlanta, because everybody knew he was slick. And he went down to this little small town, applied for the job, and he was interviewed by Robbie and King, the deacons and the elders, and they liked what they heard. I mean, the guy presented himself well. So they said, well, now, depending on how you can preach, I think we're going to hire you. Now, he had his brother-in-law with him, and his brother-in-law was a little bit shaky too, you know. He weren't all there. And he always took his brother-in-law wherever he went. So they told him, said, look, if you put a good sermon out Sunday, you can have a job. So the preacher was trying to decide what would be the best way to really impress him. So this was a church that had a balcony up there, but nobody ever sit up there. And also, the preacher told his brother-in-law, Clarence, that Sunday morning, he said, go to the store and get a whole bunch of different kind of meat. Get a little bread too, and go hide up in the balcony. And when I say something about a certain kind of meat, you throw that meat down. Clarence said, okay. So he went up in the balcony, took all the meat and the bread up there, and the preacher started preaching. And when they started talking about Moses and manna from heaven, so we could use some bread down here today. Clarence threw some bread out, and Brother Grace was impressed. Wow, this is all right. He said, and this congregation deserves some steak because they've been faithful. Clarence threw out some steak, and he said, you know, some pork chops would be nice right about now because they've been faithful. Clarence threw the pork chops out. And he started preaching. He says, you know, one of the great things about my life is on the weekend, every Saturday and Sunday morning, my wife wakes me up with the smell of bacon in the house. Said bacon just permeates the whole house, and I love bacon. Said, could we get some bacon down in here? Nothing happened. He said, they've been faithful. Can we get some bacon down in here? Nothing happened. He looked up. Bacon! Clarence stuck his head out and said, preacher, they didn't have no bacon at the stove, but I got some fat back if you want it. Deidre, this is the last one. I know y'all get tired. They had this guy up in Canada. He was a wildlife photographer, but he was an atheist. He hated Christians. And one day he was up in the North Woods taking pictures, and he heard something behind him. And he looked back, and it was a 2,000-pound grizzly bear. He dropped his camera and started running, and the bear was running right after him. He looked back, and the bear was gaining on him, and he tripped, fell. He was laying there, and the bear was closing in on him. And at this time, he said, Lord, help me. And then his voice says, all these years you have denied my existence, and now you want me to make you a Christian? He said, well, Lord, it probably wouldn't be right to make me a Christian. He said, but could you make the bear a Christian? Boy said, okay. And then he opened his eyes, saw the bear. The bear took 2 steps back, fell down on his knees, put his paws up to his face like this. He said, Lord, I thank you for this food I'm about to see. That's awful.